Why can't I be the MVP of the league? Why can't I be the best player in the league?
I truly have enjoyed being your quarterback.
Right between the eyes. A spectacular move. Too big, too strong, too fast, too good.
Can't do what we do. We play like we play.
Can you feel that? That thing that's beating in your doggone chest right now. Can you feel that? Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
What is up, diehards? Wes Monell is in the building for Awol Sports. How you doing? It's summertime and it's time to talk rankings. We'll be going from quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end over this course of summer. We'll also get to regular season predictions, awards, playoff predictions, all the above. As for today, we're talking quarterbacks. That's my quarterback. But yeah, we're going to talk quarterback tiers up to this point in time, and then I'm going to give you my rankings, and I'm throwing in potential what I believe will be fulfilled in 2019 and beyond. And there are some quarterbacks on the downhill slope. That's just the reality. And whenever you're talking about the better quarterbacks in the game, you're always going to be splitting hairs. So going into this conversation, whether it's with me on this podcast or elsewhere, you gotta know that. You can't just go in thinking someone's dissing a great quarterback. We're splitting hairs when we're talking greatness, and that's what you have to do because that's all you can do. I'm not going to go around talking about 9 out of 10 things Drew Brees is great at when I see, it was 9 out of 10 over the course of his career, but nowadays it may be, 3 out of 10 that he's not so great at. And those numbers, it kind of gets more and more as he ages, and it's natural. It's okay. So, don't vote me off the island if I tell you that I don't think Big Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback, because that's exactly what I think. But it doesn't mean I'm not a Big Ben fan. I just think they have too many people in the Hall of Fame. But that's another conversation for another day. Just trying to preface, some of the things here we're about to discuss at the quarterback position. So let's get to it. Starting in the AFC East, of course, Tom Brady is the top dog in the division. No need to say more. It's Tom freaking Brady. And we know as we dwindle down these rankings to the elite, to the cream of the crop, Brady is one of those names, if not at the very top. Behind him in the AFC East, I have Josh Allen, then Ryan Fitzpatrick, followed by Sam Darnold. The reason I have Josh Allen second is I saw the leadership. He went 5-6, under 500, I get it. Who in the world did he have offensively? On top of that, he led all quarterbacks with 8 rushing touchdowns. Man, I see a cannon. That doesn't always translate with the accuracy, I understand that. But going into year number 2, I have him ahead of Sam Darnold. Darnold played a couple more games than Allen did. So when you're a type of quarterback that Josh Allen is, in the similar mold of Cam Newton, I know he's going to attempt to improve as a passer, and the Bills are doing what they can to surround him with better playmakers on that side of the ball. I think Allen's ahead of the curve right now in comparison to Darnold, and the reason I have him in front of Fitzpatrick as well is the leadership thing. Fitzpatrick we know is either A, an elite backup, or B, a spot starter, and that's pretty much his ceiling. Granted, Sam Darnold's ceiling is probably higher than that. It's more of an unknown. He's going to be handing the ball off 300 plus times a year to Le'Veon Bell, and justifiably so. So the reason I have Fitzpatrick ahead of Darnold right now is I've seen Fitzpatrick go on hot streaks, and Darnold, he's probably the biggest question mark here. I'm pretty sure we can pinpoint, kind of pigeonhole Josh Allen to what type of quarterback he's going to be. Anything great as far as a passer, that's going to be a cherry on top. AFC West, we have the reigning MVP Pat Mahomes atop of the division. he leapfrogs Phillip Rivers, who was reigning over the AFC West, at the quarterback position. Rivers, he also had a playoff appearance. Didn't win a game like Mahomes did, but he did reach the postseason, and he does get a couple of weapons back. He has Hunter Henry, healthy Melvin Gordon, and I guess you can make an argument, since Tyreek Hill may be suspended, that Mahomes, you think he might dip a little bit. He may not be number one, number two in the MVP conversation at the end of the year, but I'm pretty sure most of you would say Pat Mahomes is a top 10 quarterback. And that used to be the case with Phillip Rivers. And a lot of you fantasy football players may look at Rivers and, 12 to 16 or something in that range. I get it. But we're talking reality here. And Rivers is probably a top 10 quarterback in most of your books. Derek Carr, number 3 in the division for the Oakland Raiders. We saw Carr have an MVP caliber type of season. He wasn't going to win it if he stayed healthy, but he was up there in that conversation. We've seen him have success at this level. It's something that we've seen. Then we saw team turmoil. And now with the new regime and a lot of veterans and a talented rookie running back that they claim is a 3-down back. Then you get Antonio Brown, the best receiver in the game for the past handful of years. We're going to see a better Derek Carr. Now, I won't go as far as top 5, top 7 Derek Carr. I'd say he'd be flirting with top 10, maybe top 12. That might be his ceiling, that kind of range right there, in a John Gruden offense. But I have him third behind the other 2 more established quarterbacks for good reason. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. And at the bottom of this division, Joe Flacco, new to the Denver Broncos, now on his second team. He was part of a Super Bowl run in Baltimore, but he's going to be thrown to a hobbled Emmanuel Sanders, who's trying to recover from his injury from last season, and some very young targets. So, and Denver hasn't had the best offensive line in recent years. So not only the surroundings, but the player himself, Joe Flacco, could he succeed? Well, you know what? Denver, I think, has a playoff caliber roster, not really as a division winner, more so as a wild card contender. We're not there yet as far as what teams are going to make the playoffs. Denver can and probably should be in that picture at the very least come December, but I don't believe Joe Flacco is a top 3 quarterback in the AFC West. Over in the AFC North, who do you have at number 1? Is it Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback with history? Or is it Baker Mayfield, the quarterback with the future? I'm not going to overreact to a season, but this is what I see. I see Baker Mayfield, a leader and accurate on his downfield throws. What I also see is Big Ben. Many playoff appearances, won a Super Bowl early in his career. But you know what? For someone that's been a fan his entire career, I jumped off the Roethlisberger bandwagon last year. Actually, yeah, it was last year. I mean, I started 2 years ago. I just think he's declining in leadership. If you think he ever had leadership, which I do, I think that's the part that's been declining more than anything physically. And the whole Le'Veon Bell situation, Antonio Brown situation, losing 2 Pro Bowl players, guys of that caliber, man, I know the Steelers, they take pride in their drafts and the way they go about their business. And I'm not someone to tell them to change things because they've had success. I understand that. I'm just kind of prognosticating moving forward. I think they're going to struggle for the rest of Big Ben's career. I think they'll be lucky to make 1 more playoff appearance as long as Roethlisberger is under center, leading the locker room. So I actually have Mayfield at number 1 in the AFC North. 2019 coming up. Another weapon in OBJ. Another year with David Njoku and Jarvis Landry. Another year to get acclimated, to make a sophomore leap. And I'd take Mayfield right now over Roethlisberger, even if you only narrowed it down to, oh, who do you want for one season? I'm going to take Mayfield. You may disagree, and that's quite all right. I understand you historians. It's kind of siding with a veteran that you've seen many years. I get it. I get it. But I got Mayfield 1, Roethlisberger 2, followed by Andy Dalton. I think this may be a make or break season for him. He's got a new head coach, a new offense. Coming into the year, he's got a healthy Joe Mixon and A.J. Green. Tyler Eifert supposedly healthy. We'll see if he actually makes an impact like he once did early in his career. And yeah, you never know with a head coach, but I've seen Dalton have moments of positivity. He's got A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, John Ross. He's got some weapons to work with. He's definitely ahead of Lamar Jackson. The one-dimensional offense in Baltimore, I have no idea how they made the playoffs. I know their blueprint, run the ball, option, and run the ball, sprinkle in a throw here and there. They just try to out-physical you. They put their O-line on your D-line and a linebacker. They threw a fullback your way, a running back your way. They tried to punch you in the mouth. They didn't even have to run some special wildcat formation. Just a normal formation with Lamar Jackson, and all 10 guys were blocking. Early and often. Consistently. So, I'm all about quarterback development and all. But coming into this year, Lamar Jackson, I still see one-dimensional offense. I'm not going to buy what they're saying about, oh, people are going to be surprised. Baltimore's going to open it up. Lamar's going to do this through the air. Show me. Show me, Lamar. I'm not rooting against you. I just got to see something. AFC South, I think this one is pretty easy across the board. I'm sure you'll let me know if it's not, or if you think I'm dead wrong. Andrew Luck at the top. He's an MVP candidate. The Colts are always in the playoffs when Andrew Luck is on the field. Deshaun Watson, number 2. He's a future stud. He really is. He did so much with a mediocre at best offensive line. Lost Will Fuller to injury. Can you name another wide receiver not named DeAndre Hopkins? You don't even know Kiki's last name. And you probably won't until fantasy comes back around and you're doing your mock drafts, which you should already be doing, but it's cool. Here's your reminder. Sean Watson, man, the dual threat that he is, he makes downfield throws look really easy when he actually gets time. He takes off and scrambles from 10 yards out after a play action and breaks the defense's back. He just turns the corner, untouched, into the end zone. That dude can play. Third, I have a former Super Bowl MVP, Nick Foles, now on the Jaguars, reunites with John DeFilippo, his former offensive coordinator in Philly, back together here. They have young weapons to work with. A rehabilitating Marquise Lee. Foles went to the big game, but I got to tell you, yes, I did think the Eagles would win with Nick Foles. Yes. And rewind back to the Michael Vick days. Before you knew Nick Foles, unless you knew him in college at Arizona, you know what? That, as an Eagles fan, I wanted Foles to supplant Michael Vick. I just didn't see the sustained consistency. Inaccurate. Kind of followed him throughout his career. Vic always has highlight reel moments. Goes through hot streaks as a passer. All the above. Kind of doing what Deshaun Watson is doing these days. But Nick Foles hasn't started a full 16 games. How in the world were you going to pick Nick Foles over Carson Wentz? You weren't. That was not going to happen. He hasn't put in that 16. The most games Nick Foles has played in a single season is 11, which is the least amount of games that Carson Wentz has played. Wentz has played 16, 13, and 11 in his 3 seasons in chronological order. The most Foles has started in one single year is 11. But I do like Foles. Obviously, you all know he's good at the read option. I think he's a confident downfield passer. I do see pros. I also see cons. We can touch on those a little later. Marcus Mariota, I have him at the bottom of the barrel in the AFC South. He's had a lot of chances in Tennessee. He's missed a couple games every year in his 4 years so far. Entering year 5 with Ryan Tannehill looking over his shoulder. Tannehill can't wait to hand over that clipboard to Mariota and to get him in the game. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Tennessee's got a top 3 offensive line. They have 2 young wideouts to get the veteran Delaney Walker back for at least one more season. And they have a timeshare that they can win games with in the backfield. That's the blueprint for a lot of teams that don't have the quarterback. And actually, when you look around, that's been the recipe for the Seattle Seahawks as well. Dallas Cowboys. Seahawks have a quarterback. Cowboys, it's questionable. It kind of depends what side of the fence you are on when it comes to Prescott and the Cowboys. But Mariota, I've never really jumped on his bandwagon. I've never really seen consistency or that glimmer to be excited that he's going to be something great. I think this is his make-or-break year as well, along with Dalton. I'm actually a Tannehill fan. Most of you are not. You may think I'm crazy. I think Tannehill played some good football in year number 3, solid football in year number 4, and you know what? Miami, they did what they had to do, moved on, and Tannehill is now in a situation to where, it may not be an open competition in Tennessee, but if they see Tannehill is outperforming Mariota, then it's only a matter of time. Especially if Tennessee isn't winning games. Because yes, even though they didn't look like a sexy playoff team a couple of years back, they did make it. NFC East, at the top of the division, I think this is easy. It's Carson Wentz. MVP caliber year in 2017. I think he had actually a very solid to good year as a rookie. And most people think he just didn't play well at all. I just don't think you paid attention if you have that opinion, whether you're on TV, radio, or a fan. So, I watched every snap. I really have. And I can say the same about Dak Prescott. I've watched every snap. The difference between those two and why Wentz is 1 and Prescott is 2 has nothing to do with where they were drafted. 1, Carson Wentz is a special talent that has put that on display, and he has full autonomy at the line of scrimmage. It's very tough to win a game without a starting caliber running back. When he had that, they made the playoffs, clinched the first seed. Of course, he did have to pass the baton. That is the reality of it. I can't change your mind if you want to put Carson Wentz in a square peg and say, oh, never going to be healthy. I'm not trying to change your mind. I just don't think that's the right frame of mind to have. So, if that's the foundational disagreement there, then so be it. But I think the quarterback position is different. Unless it's a, unfortunate years and years of Sam Bradford-like suffering. It's not really a thing at the quarterback position to where a guy doesn't come back healthy or stays healthy. When Mariota misses 2 or 3 games a year, he still plays 13, 14 games every year. No, he's not the best, and we just talked about him, but that's just one example. Andrew Luck went through something major. Aaron Rodgers misses games almost every year. Big Ben's playing hurt, and it hurts his play. But yeah, I mean, these quarterbacks, Brady tore his knee. Some people didn't think he'd be the same. He came back even better. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of quarterbacks, there's a lot of players, there's a lot of injuries. I think quarterbacks can recover from injuries. I don't think Wentz is going to be a guy that gets hurt every year. I think he gets smarter every year. So I'm not going to predict an injury there. There's certain players that will. When it comes to someone that has a hamstring injury every year, like Leonard Fournette, different story. So Dak Prescott, number 2, he's a player you can win football games with. And you know what? Like, yeah, he does have a little clutch gene to him. He's excelled in moments. I just think he's a quarterback you win with. He's not the quarterback that's going to guide you to wins week in and week out. He's different. He's closer to Alex Smith. He's closer to average than he is good. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And he's still young and he can still develop. I just see a ceiling. And he's already close to it. Eli Manning, number 3, ahead of Dwayne Haskins at 4. We haven't seen Haskins play it down. He might not even be the starter in Washington. It might be Case Keenum. I don't think it'll be Colt McCoy. So Haskins may get his opportunity week 1 or later in the year, but I'm pretty sure most of us, the consensus would be Haskins hits the field at some point in time, whether it's week 1, 4, or 8, or 10. Because we don't expect the Redskins to blow the competition out of the water, say, if Case Keenum was the guy. I don't think we see him going 6-2, leaving Haskins on the bench. Eli's 3 because we've seen him play football before at this level. Eli, he may not have had as bad of a season as most people think. No, it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't great. It wasn't necessarily good. I would go with, it's kind of good for Eli at this point in his career. I've never viewed him as a great quarterback or even a good quarterback, mostly just an average quarterback. And he's been that throughout his career. He's made some clutch plays. I mean, any quarterback that, gets to throw the ball and make decisions, you're going to have your moments. So I think Eli is more of a solid quarterback. And, they're going to continue that short passing game there, make it easy on Eli and young receivers because they're not really loaded. They just have Saquon Barkley right now. I don't expect them to surprise teams and to win a lot of games. And at some point, the torch is going to be passed to Daniel Jones. In the last division, NFC West, can't we just all get along? And this is where it happens. Russell Wilson, best quarterback in the division. Pretty sure 100% of us agree with that. If not, I'm curious to hear your take as to why you may think Jared Goff, possibly Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe a longer shot, Kyler Murray, why you would prefer one of those over Russell Wilson, although I doubt it. I'm curious to hear your take. Again, AWOL_West on Twitter or AWOL Sports on Facebook. Wilson is one, proven, does it every year. Iron Man, slides when he runs, and he's effective when he runs. He used third and red zone touchdowns. Phenomenal. My only issue with him is that's the only time he threw the ball in the red zone. Doesn't throw a lot. He was like 20th in pass attempts. That's less than Dak Prescott, who was 16th. So, I mean, that does tell me a lot. That tells me a lot that, maybe they don't believe in Russell Wilson like the other teams in the league believe in their elite quarterbacks, like Tom Brady, Drew Brees. Then you throw in Pat Mahomes, Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck. You can even keep Ben Roethlisberger in that category, who always leads the league in pass attempts, or he's up there. He led it last season. So, I mean, Wilson doesn't throw that much. He doesn't audible that much. And they run the most.
Let's start
All right, man. Joey B is back with us. What's going on, man?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm great.
For the people that don't know, we're starting off on a very hot foot. We just found out that Drew Brees and
Darren
Sproles are
running routes,
doing some routes together, and I bring up the subject of it's going to be hard. It's a hard committee to get into. You got Latavius Murray, and then also leading it is one of the best running backs in the league, and he says one of the most, if not the most, overrated running back in the league being Alvin Kamara, which...
Agree or disagree, it's okay. Alvin Kamara, a stud. No one contests that, not even me.
Sure.
We got to see what he can do.
But overrated in which sense, though?
Well, he's getting drafted top 5 in fantasy.
Sure.
And in real life, reality, people are saying he's one of the best backs in football.
Sure.
He's got one of the best skill sets. He's one of the most explosive. Mm-hmm. I gotta see a full 16 without Mark Ingram.
Yeah, but that's what my whole
You're projecting him to be great.
Well, because look what he did for the first 5 games that Mark Ingram. I think it was 5 or 6, 4.
4.
When Mark Ingram was not in, and he finally comes in, and then obviously, you have 2 guys who can be legitimized as starters. Obviously, Mark Ingram is a starter for Baltimore now, but once you get that, obviously you'll see a huge decrease. But I mean, those first 5 games, or 4 games rather, I had Alvin Kamara and I was thriving, especially since I'm assuming a standardized league will be full, maybe either half PPR or PPR, right?
Right.
And I mean, that is all. I don't know off the top of my head how many receptions he had, but it was high up there. I'm saying
a ton. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So obviously the value is there for Kamara, but I say he is one of the most elite running backs, and if I got him in the first round again, I will be doing backflips again.
Just not with the first pick.
No.
Not with the second pick.
I mean, the thing is, what's crazy though with this year, opposed to the last 3 years of fantasy, that at least I've witnessed, is this is probably, if you pick any top 5, which I mean I think we've agreed off air that we don't go wide receiver first pick.
First 5, no.
Yeah, no. So the first 5 running backs, you can get away with legitimately. You can get away with picking them.
Zeke, Saquon, McCaffrey, and then it kind of opens up.
Kamara.
This is where you throw in Kamara.
But so would you? I mean, David Johnson too.
Yep.
Would you say that any 5 of those guys can go first? Would I mean? It's not like out of the realm of possibility that those guys can erupt this year.
True.
I would say.
I'm not going to fault someone for their projection.
Sure.
But if you're telling me anyone other than these 3 names deserves to be the number 1 pick, it's hard for me to buy.
Yeah, because we've agreed that CMC should be.
Christian McCaffrey is the best player
for PPR
in fantasy football.
Is the best player.
Christian McCaffrey, hands down. CMC.
Sure. I should say. I would agree.
2 and 3, preference based, of course.
Sure.
Zeke, Saquon. Right?
Solid.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's the top 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Then it opens up.
Then I say a solid
You
4
think it's
would be
Kamara.
Kamara. Yes.
You think it's him?
Yeah.
I lean towards David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell. Both of them.
Over Kamara.
Over Kamara.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, if I'm near the end of the first round and Le'Veon Bell drops and you pick up Kamara early,
wow.
I think I got better value.
Wow. I don't agree, and I'm sure if you can listen in the distance, if you take these headphones off, you listen to distance, you can hear your people listening to this podcast screaming, West, you are crazy. But that's the thing with football.
Exactly.
Anybody can. I mean, do we honestly, legitimately think that Alvin Kamara? Look at him in his rookie year. His first, he was a nobody, and then he slowly became this. Oh my God! I mean, came out of nowhere. Christian McCaffrey. We knew he was going to be a stud.
Yeah,
kind of, man. Whatever. There's so many instances where these guys have breakout years, and then it legitimizes them. I mean, look at what happened with David Johnson, right?
Oh yeah.
He got drafted first round, 2016 or 2017. Has erupted in 2016 and then just had a complete bust year. So
yeah,
everyone is different every year, but I would say
you swap DJ and Kamara on their teams. Kamara has a tough time in Arizona.
Nah, I think David Johnson would have a tougher time in New Orleans.
Oh, I don't think
the passing is what makes Kamara so elite.
And DJ.
Yeah, but
DJ
I think
wants 1K rushing and 1K
plus
receiving.
Any team. Any running back rather would have a tough time on Arizona when it comes to being passed the ball.
Thank you.
The ball passed.
Yeah.
To them. Obviously, the most important part
and rushing.
exactly, and that's what I was going to say is the most important thing to any running back is the blocking. If there's no blocking, then there's no running back. So obviously, you put Saquon, you put Ezekiel Elliott, all these factors.
Saquon might be the aberration.
Sure, I mean that guy is.
Even though the Giants invested in that O-line, it just didn't get the results they thought they were going to get.
Right. Yeah.
But Saquon still balled out.
Definitely.
So all I was saying was you swap DJ and Kamara. You put DJ on New Orleans.
Oh, I see.
I'm telling you, Mark Ingram is fighting to get 6 touches a game instead of the double digit he's getting with Kamara.
I mean,
because DJ is better.
It's not out of the realm of possibility, but I mean, it's something that we would never have seen. We can never see. I think it's just the variables in which they have been given, and the variables that show it brings itself out of, hey, Kamara is an elite pass catcher. He's very elusive. He has a great quarterback throwing to him. He has great blocking. Sean Payton's very, very good at developing a scheme. And then you have the dumpster fire that was Arizona last year, where they didn't have blocking. They had a horrible quarterback. I mean, David Johnson, who is obviously a top 5, had a not a great year at all last year, and is still going to draft the top 5.
Right. Correct.
In some leagues. So, but still has the ability of being an elite running back. So it's obviously talent, but I mean, man, you put him anywhere, he's going to be successful. Obviously, his capital goes up a little bit more this year. I think he has more value, but we'll see.
And something to understand for everyone, when you're talking about the best players in the game or at their position, you're going to be splitting hairs.
Oh, absolutely.
It's all splitting hairs. We'd all take these guys in reality and fantasy.
Sure.
It's just 4th pick, 9th pick. It's splitting hairs.
Sure. So. Plus, I mean, the big thing, too, with when it comes to David Johnson, he's never really had the only contention he's had with the backfield is himself.
Yeah,
he blew injuries.
Andre Ellington out the water. Remember, Ellington was a fantasy darling for a stretch.
Exactly. And then he went to Houston, I believe, right?
And now he's in Tampa with Bruce Arians reunited.
Yeah.
And Chase Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying he's going to be involved in that offense.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's an air raid, pass attack.
But that's also another huge variable, too, is
handcuff.
The handcuff. I mean, look what happened with Alvin Kamara. For his first 2 years, he was halving it with an elite
Ingram.
Starter.
Yeah.
So now we get to see. I don't think Latavius Murray's going to chew up any of his time as much as Mark Ingram.
As much as Ingram? Okay, fair.
I say 7-8 touches a game.
Remember yesterday? This was off air.
Sure.
We were talking about quarterbacks and their rushing stats.
Sure.
And one of those stats was rushing touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Drew Brees just happened to vulture Alvin Kamara.
4, 5, 6.
He had 5.
Yeah.
Tied with Deshaun Watson. 5 rushing touchdowns. We know they're all QB sneaks. Or it was probably more like 4 QB sneaks, 1 bootleg, naked bootleg. No one knew.
2-yard line stuff.
Yeah. It's like, we're going to give Brees a run. He ain't going to run.
Well, on the top of that list, I mean, to not advance on that topic, the top of our list that Wes was saying yesterday was can you name the top 4 rushing leading quarterbacks?
Yeah.
Number 1, obviously, was Josh Allen.
7.
That's why, in my opinion, LaShawn McCoy is such a bust.
Ooh.
Is such a bust. I mean, plus
you're not even going to Frank Gore and Devin Singletary.
No. And then to add to that backfield, now you just got T.J. Yeldon.
Oh, right.
And I mean, who was an absolute stud on the Jacksonville Jaguars when
he got the chance.
Leonard Fournette was out. Yeah. So, I mean, when your best rusher is your quarterback, your value is so low. Especially someone like LaShawn McCoy, who had his ups and his downs. He didn't really have much he had his upswing. He was very successful when he was on the Eagles and had some successes with the Bills, and then it just plummeted. And I think maybe age is catching up with him. He's 30, 31?
I'm going to move on because that's one of my favorite players of all time. I love Shady.
Segueing to
I love Shady because I remember that Snow Bowl. I don't know why we call everything a bowl. Snow Bowl and Fog Bowl, but when the Eagles played the Lions, I remember Shady McCoy just cutting back in the snow and diving over linemen.
What was that? That was a special. That was what, Thanksgiving or something.
It
Wasn't
was
it?
around that time.
It
in
was like
November.
It was like a big game where everyone's watching. Obviously,
Both teams in the playoff picture. And yeah, dude,
Yeah.
it was Shaggy in the snow.
but
was
that's
dope.
why I give him praise. Is he had his talents really milked when he was in Philadelphia.
He did. He really did.
And then something happens in the scheme and just doesn't develop more than he could have, especially with Josh Allen. If you have 7 touchdowns, that's more touchdowns than most running backs get in a whole entire season alone. So
I think it's going to be man. Buffalo's got 4 guys in that backfield. I don't know if you want to draft anyone high, to be honest.
No.
We just said Shady, Gore, Singletary, Yeldon, and then I saw some report earlier. They interviewed Yeldon. He says, "I'm gonna do it all back."
yeah.
Well, damn. Okay.
Yep. Yeldon's a sneak. He's a sneaky player to get if you're going to go into I'm going to do it all back. I mean, he's a sneaky player that you can get in the 15th round as stories develop more, what they're going to do with their scheme with Josh Allen's running, with his passing, with the blocking in the backfield, because I think Josh Allen's going to need it. And then obviously with that committee. That's a big committee. That's one of the biggest committees where guys can Frank Gore.
You could probably give each guy 6 touches a game and probably be really happy with the results of
That's what I'm saying.
your rushing attack.
You're equal. You're spreading the pot very, very thin. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
Yeah, and Allen runs. So
Yeah.
So part fantasy, part reality here.
Okay.
We talked about running backs, talked about Zeke.
Sure.
He's still on his rookie deal. We know Zeke's a top 3 pick in all fantasy drafts, and in reality, arguably number 1 in the NFL in the backfield.
Sure. Loves to eat.
Feed him.
Spoon.
Amari Cooper comes over in the trade, has a good half season with Dallas,
Sure.
makes Dak Prescott look better, and takes that offense to another level.
Sure.
He's got a contract coming up.
Who gets a bigger contract?
Well, yes and more. Dak Prescott came in the same draft as
that's
Zeke.
right.
Same
is
draft
right.
as Zeke. But he wasn't the first round guy. Zeke was. Dak was in the 3rd. Got a contract coming up too. So I'll put it this way. How I'd rank those 3: Zeke, Cooper, Dak.
I agree.
If I'm ranking them individually, that's how it goes. But I have a little bit of a different order. It's exactly the opposite of that when it comes to who Dallas should pay first.
Oh, 500%.
Yeah, you agree?
I agree.
So you
Yeah.
agree with the individual rank is Zeke, Cooper, Prescott, but who you have to pay is Dak, Cooper, and then Zeke. Completely agree?
I completely agree.
I like it.
I'm actually surprised and very glad that you did that.
And you know what? It's not that I think Dak Prescott is closer to average than closer to good.
I agree.
I think he is. But if you're Dallas, if you're in that front office and you believe he's your personality and leader, if you think that's your guy, he's the quarterback.
Right.
Keep him around.
Right. I mean obviously so to advance on that is, it's very common to say this guy is our franchise blank. It's very common to say this is our franchise quarterback, right? That's why you pay Kirk Cousins. That's why you pay, you pay all these quarterbacks. And obviously, for the talk of the last couple of years, it's I guess 2 years now. Or 3, I think going into 3 with Dak.
He's played 3. This is year 4 coming up.
So the last couple of years, it's been like, hey, man, how much are we going to end up paying this guy, right? So they knew coming in that the quarterback is your money, right? That's the guy that you're going to be spending that you're going to break open that piggy bank and you're going to be spending a lot of cash for. So you have to pay your quarterback high, or else you're going to go somewhere else. And most times, because of desperation when it comes to quarterbacks, a team will pay them more than what you were going to pay that guy, or at least pay what they were wanting. Right?
Yeah, it's like, who are you going to get? Case Keenum?
Sure.
Who's there? Who's there? You get a tank for Tua?
Yeah, exactly. So you have that, and I think because of the fact that it was a mid-season grab for Amari Cooper, you have to pay the guy. You have to show legitimacy on you investing this guy in this guy. And I think he obviously has value. Plus, I mean, we've seen Ezekiel Elliott. He's the young one out of Cooper and him.
He's the only sure thing of that trio.
Sure. And that, I think, you can get away with saying, here, man, we're going to pay you just 2 years, not 6 years, not 7 years, not 8 years, like you can with Dak, right? You can give him an 8-year deal as a quarterback. Running backs are a little like, let's pay him less, but let's give him less time to come. But I think you can say to Cooper, hey, man, you're the oldest one out of the three. We'll keep you for 4 or 5 years. Here's some money. Stay quiet. Stay with us. Give us some big numbers, and boom, you have to pay Dak to keep him there, to be your franchise quarterback. You have to get the rest of the milking of Cooper's, the talent that we've kind of saw in Dallas. He's a very, very bang or bust kind of guy, or boom or bust rather. You have to have him be committed to using the rest of his talents there. And there's no way that the running back position like that is you either pay enough for the guy, and then he stays because he's comfortable, he's established himself, or he gets skittish and he goes, screw this, like Le'Veon Bell. He was there. He got his time in. He goes, dude, pay me, But why spend money on a guy like a running back? Why spend money on a running back if at one point in time they're either going to leave because they're unsettled with their money and they can find some money elsewhere, or they're just going to get comfortable and stay like David Johnson, like Todd Gurley, like Melvin Gordon. They're not the highest paid people, but they'll stay because they know that time that comes around for that contract, they're going to give them the money that they want and go, here you go. You know what I mean?
I do.
So I say Dak, Cooper, Zeke.
Yet we agree about the talent and the order.
Yeah, and that's the contradiction with it. Quarterbacks are the moneymakers.
It's so funny. I'm glad you brought up Lev Bell because that would be the only, asterisk, so to speak, the only wild card in that equation. I would pay Dak this offseason so they can include some of that salary extension into the final year of what would have been the final year of his rookie deal.
Sure.
So you kind of help your cap like that moving forward. Then with Cooper, I'm kind of glad that Cooper's like, I just got here. I'm going to prove myself this year. I like that. You pay him next off season. You all right, cool. You put in a good half year. Let's see a good full year. And then with Zeke, that'd be the last guy I'd want to pay, even though he's the best one. We agree, because the life expectancy of a running back.
Absolutely, it's a big risk.
And the only wild card is if he tries to pull a Lev Bell, because we know that Dallas Cowboys team is not a playoff caliber team without Zeke.
I agree.
So
barely a playoff team,
barely with him. Yeah, right.
So
it's a big deal for Dallas fans. Since you've drafted Zeke and Dak, they've made the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. That seems great. Granted, they did inherit an offensive line that was built for Tony Romo.
Oh, absolutely.
But hey, you can't blame people for taking advantage of the situation. But yeah, so that'd be the order. I didn't think you would agree.
Well, now let me ask just real quick question about the Cowboys and everything. How do you think it does it hinder or help the value of the 3 guys, the 3-headed monster we just named, with Witten coming back? Now, I think we can both agree Witten isn't going to be a George Kittle, a Travis Kelce, a Zach Ertz. He's not going to be this elite guy. It's just a handcuff, right?
Yeah.
If we need to go somewhere, we have him to block. But he's almost 40.
He'll get you 4 yards.
But they still spent money on him.
They did.
It makes you wonder, like, for instance, with I guess to expand a little bit more on it, you go into the draft for Washington. You go into the draft knowing you want a quarterback, but you just signed Case Keenum to a deal, and you also have Alex Smith that you're paying.
That's a lot of
you
money.
have to pay, right? So
And now a first-round quarterback that you have to give first-round money to.
Exactly. So what are you gonna? Well, like it. You know what I'm saying? It makes you as mainly as a fantasy owner, you have to pay attention to what the team is doing and what they're not saying. Their actions speak far louder than their words. Well, hold on. How are you going to say that you want this guy to be paid? He's guaranteed to start. The whole thing with Tyreek Hill. What they're saying and what they're doing are two different things, right?
Yeah.
The NFL is saying, yeah, we're waiting for it. He's not allowed. He's suspended and banned from his team. That's what I said yesterday on air was I don't think he plays this year because I'm looking at their actions. Same thing with them spending money on a rookie deal for Zeke and Dak and then having to pay Cooper and stuff. What you're saying is one thing about, yeah, we're going to pay him, and then you just spend money on a guy who retired, became a commenter, and then came back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it just doesn't make sense, but sometimes you really got to analyze what the team is doing in the front office and the back office.
Right, that's true, because you know what? There's nothing football-wise that tells me this was a good decision by the Cowboys to bring Witten back.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for Witten, he misses a game, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they're going into this thinking we need the leadership, okay, fine.
Sure.
You're paying for leadership. He ain't going to do anything on that field.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the same Jason Witten.
Yeah.
Is he Hall of Fame worthy? Sure.
Hire him as a coach.
Right.
If you need that, hire him as a coach.
He's still in your locker room?
Yeah.
So, hey, that's that. That's that. I did want to ask you.
Sure.
The pass interference rule.
Okay. This is something I've been wanting to talk about.
All calls and non-calls will be reviewable. Right now, it's as of just this season only.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a can of worms.
Sure.
Do you think it's acceptable and kind of a just cause?
So,
I think it's a can of worms because it's an overreaction to one play, and it opens up just the Hail Mary, too many kind of... You know how Brady will throw downfield, and I'm not saying they're not trying to complete a deep play, but you can just tell Brady or not even Rodgers, but Brady or Roethlisberger, they'll throw deep a lot of times just to get that yards from a penalty.
right, exactly.
You can tell.
Yeah. No, it's a strategic part.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yeah. But that's why I think it's the weight of two swords. It's a catch-22. You have to look, in my opinion, you have to break it out in two forms. As a sports fan or a fanatic, a lover of the sport, and then a fantasy owner, right? That's two moralistic ends of the spectrum. Especially if you're spending money.
I think this hurts.
It does.
Fantasy too.
It does. But I mean, you're gonna cheer for it if it happens to the guy.
But you don't get the yards.
Well, right. I mean, it maybe gets good position for your running back to get in the goal, and then there you go. Oh man, you were looking at a 3rd and 10. Man. Oh, I needed 7 more points, all this stuff. But what I don't like about it, as a sports fan, is you're taking out the live action of which. I mean, it is always up for debate on whether it's good or not, meaning how well it's being called. But you're taking out the live aspect of having refereeing, right? Like what they're trying to do with baseball. They're trying to get. I mean, they've been talking about it for a long time.
The electronic play.
Electronic, but so what? Now you're just going to get rid of the umpire and then, still stay behind the plate, but just kind of nonchalantly stay in there. You're going to have your line judge for officiating in the NFL. You're going to have the back judge. You're going to have this. But then at the end of the day, it's like, hey man, you missed that. It's gonna slow the game down. The progressiveness of the game is becoming more for the favor of it being fair and just. A lot of the times when it comes to football, you gotta swallow the pill because it's just not fair and it's not just.
That's life.
Exactly, it's life. But when you slow the game down in order to, I think we can agree that the call in the Saints game was ludicrous.
Sure.
And what happened was, but it happened.
It happens.
I mean, you can't. That's the whole thing. And the only contradiction I have on this is you cannot legitimize a game's start or finish being dependent on a call, whether it's blown or not, when the Saints, the Saints didn't win not because of that blown call, but because you were down, because you couldn't convert.
They went to overtime.
That's what I'm saying.
And got the ball first.
That's what I'm saying.
And
you cannot blame
your
it.
Hall of Famer throws a pick. The other team wins at your house.
Yeah.
You still had the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Still had a chance.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that I'm saying.
Overreaction.
It's an overreaction. It takes the element of the liveliness of the game out.
I
it
can't
takes
believe
it out.
It was a 31-1 vote by the owners or the governors.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the NBA, they're starting to call them governors.
Yeah,
instead of
but I
owners.
mean, it's because they want that opportunity where they're saying, if I'm the Browns, if I'm the Chargers, if I'm Kansas City, if I'm any team that's not the Saints, you go, if that was my team, I'd want that call to be brought back. I want it to be reviewed. Well, of course.
Yeah.
Until you're the team.
Until it happens to you.
Yeah, exactly. Until you're the team that's doing pass interference, and you're like, oh God, they didn't see it, but they're gonna challenge it. And then
all 32 teams have been there.
It's a weight of two swords.
They've all been on the short end of the stick, as the Saints were, even in that type of a game. The catch rule with Dez Bryant in Dallas. Calvin Johnson had like 3 touchdowns taken away from him because of that catch rule. The catch rule was a bigger deal. They changed that.
Yeah.
I was for it. This thing, I don't think it was a priority. They have the roughing the passer issue. That is way bigger of a deal than this.
I agree.
Way bigger. And then the overtime thing, because MVP Pat Mahomes didn't touch the field against Brady in overtime.
There's a lot of great things that we have developed over the course of years. The tuck rule, all these things that have happened because of huge controversial things. But pass interferences have been so controversial for the whole entire length of it's been being reviewable, since we've had the technology to review and see plays live and then slow them down, instant replay, stuff like that. You're taking such an important element out of the game. You really are. So, in my opinion, you're slowing the game down. You're making it less lively. You're doing a lot of things that takes out the elements of having refereeing, good refereeing. There's more great refereeing staffs than there are bad ones. I mean, we've all been in the position of being a fan and go, this ref's blind. That's one call, whatever. I say it's not a good idea. It's not good for football.
So how about this? I like that there's still only 2 challenges and a third if you win both. I like that because it'll limit the madness that comes with that rule.
Sure.
It'll eliminate that to an extent, to a degree. So, what do you think of Big Brother in the NFL? You know how they always go to New York?
Sure.
So, okay, you're the NFL. You have all these retired officials.
Sure.
Probably wanting something to do. Why don't you assign one official per game each week? You're the NFL.
Yeah.
One official per
As
game.
an outsourced opinion.
Always Big Brother. Not even just for challenge plays, but on the challenge plays to speed the review up. He's watching it on the fly. He's got 4, 6, whatever TVs around him.
Flag is out.
He knows everything
already,
going on.
right.
He's in tune with the game as if he was on the field with the side judge, field judge, etc. Like you said. And for the calls that aren't challenged, for things that the refs as a official crew need to correct. Maybe things they miss. He sees it. He's like, yo, check this out. There was actually a hold. That's a key play. We're going to get some, in his head, he's got to keep in mind. He's got to be in tune of everything with that game to protect all that Monday morning quarterback stuff coming back at the officials and the NFL. I think it could speed up the process, as you were saying, and make them more efficient and make everyone happier.
Yeah, I think what makes everyone happy is not changing the course of the game, but changing the course of how officiating is happening, right? So if Big Brother per se, someone in New York or whatever like that that's watching, their job is not to watch the game. It's to watch a numerous amount of cameras or angles or whatever, that if they didn't see a guy do a false start, if there was no pass interference, if there was no roughing, before that flag is even thrown, it's being already communicated in some way. You have to officiate the game, and you have to officiate the officials. Right. I think that's what will make the game a little bit
things correct. Sure. Whether the officials on the field see it or not, I think that's where we can all benefit.
Sure.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm glad you like that. I don't think we spoke about that but one before.
Mm-mm. But I like it, though.
Yeah, Big Brother should be in the NFL.
Absolutely.
All right. You got one last thing.
One last one. Hit at me.
If it's not, this is fantasy.
Uh-huh.
If it's not Kelsey
Okay.
or Ertz, give me the top 3 tight ends.
If it's without those two
Yep.
coming into this next year,
Yep. If it's not Kelsey or Ertz, what are the next 3 receivers?
I think I'm going to give a very, very, you know me. I like to do hot takes.
You
over
do.
here. I love my hot takes. I'm going to be bold and say I think that this guy has the potential to break past Kelsey, to break past Ertz, to break past Kittle.
Whoa.
I legitimately think O.J. Howard is about as real of a deal as it can be.
Damn.
I think because what we saw, he was injured. What he was doing in his rookie year was like, this guy's the next thing, right?
Yeah, he has speed, man, after the catch.
Exactly. So I say, the way that he was linking up with Jameis Winston, and I mean, they had Cameron Brate in there. And when tight end is one of those things that's so niche within its own, unless you're those, aforementioned 2 guys that you legitimize yourself as, I'm a receiver, not a tight end. I'm a receiver, not a tight end. I'm a loyal guy that I can go out for a dig or a post or whatever I need to do to become a receiver. I think O.J. Howard has that because Cameron Brate's gone now. I think he's going to legitimize himself.
He stuck around.
He is?
He did stick around.
Oh, that's right.
And I actually think he snagged
That's
5 or 6 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I thought there was talk about trading him.
There was.
But I think now, because now they can double down with O.J. Howard, I don't think he even comes into play of it being even talked about, where it'll stifle his
Howard's
production.
the one-man show.
Yeah,
with
Howard's the
Bruce
one-man
Arians.
show. I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of Cameron Brate right before the season.
That's a good piece to trade.
Season, yeah. So I would say my top 5 with Kelsey and Ertz.
So that's 2, and then you got OJ. Who are the last 2 guys in there?
I think you have to say Kittle.
Okay.
I think Kittle is, I don't think what we saw last year was an anomaly. I think now, especially since Kittle, if you look at at his stats, he didn't blow up with one single dimension. It wasn't like, he played well against this team or this quarterback because he went through a couple of them. He was the tight end to have every single week. It's not like you stopped him on this week or that week or whatever. So you have to say Kittle, especially since he has Garoppolo back, especially since they're going to become more of passers.
First time they'll get to play together.
Exactly.
He had Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you had a couple of different guys, and he still had astounding stats.
If he keeps this up, and God forbid something happens to Garoppolo, but if he keeps balling out with whoever plays quarterback, he might be the DeAndre Hopkins of the tight end position.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I swear, DeAndre's played with 12 quarterbacks, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. So I'll say it will go Kelsey, Ertz, O.J. Kittle, and then I have to. You cannot not say Hunter Henry.
I knew it.
I mean, that kid is obviously injury prone.
Well, that's not fair. He got hurt once.
I know, but I mean,
loaded offense.
If it happens right off the bat, and it happens early on, and not even in the season, but in the year when you're not even playing, right, and you're out for the whole entire season because he was going to come back week 17, I think, and they're just like, sorry, dude.
Yeah.
But look at what this is another guy I would say he could be the number 1 tight end because look at how efficient Phillip Rivers plays with his receivers. Now, I think we can agree Antonio Gates is
great.
Great, one of the greatest, if not arguably the greatest, and has slowly declined, but still gets that, really good first down, whatever. Hunter Henry is that on steroids. So we know the comfort that Phillip Rivers has with throwing. you know. So you throw Hunter Henry in that, who is a freak show of a tight end. You bring him in there, and especially since he's been hungry to get on the field, and especially since the Chargers are a legitimate team, I think his ceiling is astronomically high.
Double H on your draft list.
He's getting drafted six for
Out of tight ends.
out of tight ends. Yeah, he's getting drafted in the 6-1 position on average here. But, you know,
Worth the investment? Despite the knee, you're not afraid?
I mean, if you get him in if he's in the 4th round, pick him up. If he's in the 5th round, pick him up. Obviously, depending on what, I mean, if there's guys that aren't on the lookout for him, maybe you can get him in the 6th or whatever. But I mean, if he gets past the 6th, see ya, he's gone.
I like it.
He's
I
gone.
got a guy for everyone. The wild card of the entire tight end position.
TJ.
No, but that's a good one. TJ Hawkinson,
We'll
Detroit,
see.
rookie.
Hawkinson.
I don't point to rookies as wild cards like that.
Can I guess who?
Yeah,
A
two more
wild
guesses.
card?
2 more guesses.
Delaney Walker.
No.
No?
But he's
Which,
good.
I mean,
he's
is a
good.
good one.
He's going to have a bounce back year. He'll be healthy.
Eric Ebron. Or Jack Doyle.
Good one, but no. He switched teams from the AFC on a struggling
Oh,
team.
you're
He
so
balled out on a struggling team.
Oh man, you're saying the man with the plan.
Now
You're
he
saying
goes-
the man. He's going to New Orleans.
Now he's in New Orleans.
Okay,
Jared is going to be cooking with Drew Brees.
I agree.
He's
I
going to
can
get
agree.
some Jimmy Graham routes.
I can agree.
That is the wild card of the tight end position.
I can agree with it.
If you don't want to waste a high pick on a tight end,
I can agree with
sit back a little bit, stack your running backs and receivers, go get you Jared
that.
Cook.
Especially since that position's wide open.
It is. I think
And-
I think it's deeper than most people think.
Right, and I mean, if he had that much production on Oakland, and he was the number 1 receiver on Oakland,
Yeah. He's not facing double teams or best defenders now. He's facing one-on-ones. He's got Michael Thomas outside.
he's got speed.
Kamara eating everything up underneath. He just sends Jared Cook across the middle with Drew Brees.
Yeah, I think Cook is. I say the age is the biggest thing, but I think he could. I would not be surprised if he finishes top, 3 in the tight ends, but I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes in top 15.
Could go. You see, it could
Either
either
way.
work or flame out.
Either way, all the aforementioned guys before that, those guys, you'd be surprised if they don't finish in the top 5 or the top 3.
True.
So
And me, in my book, I'd be surprised Jared Cook does not help you win a fantasy championship.
I agree. I
like
agree,
it.
man.
All right, brother. Thank you again.
Thanks again, man.
See you next time.
See ya.
Yo, diehards. All right. We are back to this quarterback ranking. So we went through each division, AFC and NFC. Now I'm going to break it down. Break it down even more. So we're going to go AFC, NFC, and then round it out. The NFL's best. And again and again and again, I will tell you, this isn't just based on history. This is everything. Everything in the book is included. Anything you can think of, that's what I tried to think of, and that's how I molded my own list right here. So AFC, we're going to work our way from the bottom to the top of the ladder. So y'all know, I got Lamar Jackson at the bottom of the AFC quarterback list. A little bit ahead of him, I got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Marcus Mariota, Joe Flacco. So Jackson, I think one-dimensional at this point in time. I don't expect a huge leap. I just don't. Can it happen? Sure. There's always that possibility. I just didn't see enough to feel optimistic about that this soon. Ryan Fitzpatrick, we know who he is. We know he's a backup quarterback and a spot starter, not really the one you want under center for 16 weeks. And if that were the case, you're probably not winning a lot of games. That's just the reality of it. Marcus Mariota, we did talk about him earlier. He can pass a little bit. He's a little ahead as a runner right now. It's kind of similar to Ryan Fitzpatrick, except Fitzpatrick can get hot. That's why sometimes we call him Fitz Magic. But I have Mariota above him because he's a starter every year. That does matter, and it does count for something, and he did reach the postseason. Then we have Joe Flacco. On an individual level, I just think Flacco is better than Mariota, Fitzpatrick, and Jackson. I don't think he's all world. I think he's the average quarterback, and that's not really a knock. You can win games with the average quarterback. Baltimore won it all. Denver can win games with him. So he's here. He's got the big arm. He's got a chance. He played in Baltimore, which is in Maryland, which has weather. Denver may be a little different. It's a mile high. But as long as he can get his breathing under control, he can be a similar quarterback that he was in Baltimore. I have Sam Darnold ahead of him because then in this case, there's a bunch of aspects that you can hit here. But I'm just giving you. I'm not going to talk 17 aspects on one versus one player comparison. I'm going to give you the one thing that kind of made me make these decisions to put one guy in front of the other. And for Darnold in front of Flacco, it's if I got a quarterback today, I would rather take the chance on Sam Darnold. Flacco's a veteran. You've seen him more. And I think it's been lackluster. Sam Darnold, year number 2. You're kind of hoping for some sophomore improvement. And he's going to hand the ball off a lot. Y'all love Russell Wilson, who hands the ball off the most in football. And he's very efficient in the red zone. So, you know what? Why can't Darnold improve in that sense? And I would take him over Flacco. This one, I have Andy Dalton next, and I take Dalton over Darnold probably because maybe not really on an individual level, but the fact that they have a new offense. They finally have a new face in Cincinnati at head coach. Granted, he's a rookie, very young, hardly experienced as a coordinator. The whole plan here is to just get more creative on offense. That's the goal for Cincinnati, and you know what? He's got a better supporting cast through the air. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, he's better than Joe Mixon, but Mixon isn't far. He's probably a top 10 back. But just in regards of your receiving options, that's A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, more mixed up offense, more of an offensive mind at the helm at head coach. Andy Dalton, he's got a second chance here. It's a real chance in a winnable division. Josh Allen ahead of Dalton. I think Josh Allen's a leader. He had the Buffalo very competitive, and I think he's just one of those fiery guys that's going to continue to lead the way, similar of how Cam Newton does it. That's pretty much my comparison for Josh Allen right there. Is I think Josh Allen, despite Cam Newton's MVP, which looks more like an aberration than who he is in his career, unfortunately, who knows? We'll touch up on Cam in a little bit. But Josh Allen, I think, can be a better passer than Cam Newton. Have we seen it? Not really. Maybe some glimpses, throwing deep balls to Robert Foster. Again, who is that? No offense. It's just, he's not one of those guys that you would name as a starting wide receiver in the game. So I think Allen, I love him as a dual threat. I think he's going to have a good, successful career. That doesn't always mean rings. The ring thing is a team thing. Does it matter to have a strong leader and a strong quarterback? Hell yeah, it does. I'm not going to tell you it doesn't. However, I will not judge Josh Allen or any of these quarterbacks on rings. And that's kind of, you'll hear a little bit later about Tom Brady. So above Josh Allen, I have pretty much the rest are veterans except for Watson and Mahomes. So above Josh Allen, I have Derek Carr, a guy we've seen have some success. It hasn't been sustainable success. I kind of attribute that, I think Carr's a good quarterback, just above average, kind of between but closer to good. You know how I kind of... So Carr and Dak Prescott. I have Carr... You put them both between average and good. I have Dak Prescott leaning towards average and Derek Carr leaning towards good. So I think Carr's in in the right direction. He's finally got the help that really any quarterback needs to take his game to another level or to get back to a level he once played at, 2015, 16, and we're going to see a better Derek Carr. I'm not saying elite, but it's going to be better. Nick Foles I have ahead of him. Not that he's been an every year starter like Derek Carr has been, but he's played on a big stage. He's played in back-to-back playoffs. He's been in tough situations. He's been a resilient player. Not only is he appreciative of the opportunities that he flourished in, he now gets really a third chance to be a starter again. And I think Foles is going to be a very good starter. I don't think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to be elite, but I think he's in a good situation with his OC. He can grow with some of the young offensive players there. I think Fournette and the defense are going to breathe a huge sigh of relief just to have a more competent quarterback leading the charge. Ahead of Foles, I have Roethlisberger. We all know the story about Big Ben, and I don't think we can take away the fact that he throws the most in football. That does matter. It does mean something in both, positive and negative fashions. I think the negative is he's kind of a hero ball player for a guy that doesn't really run anymore. I think Cam may be the biggest hero ball player in the game. Ben Roethlisberger was once one of those. Not that he ran as much, but just his playing style, the eye test, and, losing AB is a big deal. I know Pittsburgh has had success at wide receiver, drafting, moving on from Plaxico Burress, Emmanuel Sanders, AB, sprinkling some other names in between, Santonio Holmes. It's just tough, though. It is so tough to keep hitting, no matter how good your scouting and front office is. And I think they're going to reach the point, and I think they're at the precipice of it, where it's finally going to show, and it's going to affect their quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. I think Roethlisberger has had a better career, but 2019 and beyond, no matter how many years that turns out to be, I have Phillip Rivers ahead of Big Ben. Rivers just made the playoffs. Big Ben missed it. Rivers now gets his starting tight end that they drafted in Hunter Henry. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler is a change of pace back. They think they're better on the O-line. The Chargers are one of the better rosters in all of football. Definitely, I would say, a better supporting cast for Rivers than Roethlisberger. They're similar in the sense of, how they make mistakes and maybe showing some stubbornness, and that's who they've been, and that's not going to change. But I do think Rivers has more success in 2019 and beyond. Now, the top 5 in the AFC, I have Deshaun Watson above these veterans. I think Watson showed me enough. The eye test, completes a good percentage, and, man, he's been doing work without an O-line, without a backfield. I'm not saying Deontay Foreman is going to be a knight in shining armor in the backfield, but come on, really? Lamar Miller? Yeah, at least not to handle the load by himself. That's what I'm saying. DeAndre Hopkins is amazing. He's been the second best wide receiver in the game, having to deal with 5 different quarterbacks over the course of his career. Maybe a 6 if I forgot one that might have spot started for a game like Tom Savage or something like that. But man, Deshaun Watson, downfield touch, accuracy, the spin on the ball, on the money. And this dude just has a feel. He's not running recklessly. He makes these good decisions, and man, I'm just so excited. That's one of the guys I'm most excited for in 2019 is Deshaun Watson. I do expect some bumps in the road. That's to be expected. I don't think he has the kind of a line that Rivers and Roethlisberger have, or even Foles and Carr, for that matter. Guys that I have him ranked above. I just think he's the alpha quarterback. I don't see a lot of alpha quarterbacks in the league. I see a lot of talent, a lot of promise, and I'm excited for this position. And Watson's one of those guys that I'm rooting for. Tom Brady, He comes in on my list at number 4. He may be the best of all time in your eyes. Times do change. I'm not trying to be the one to call the downfall of Tom Brady and or the New England Patriots. I'm not trying to be the contrarian. I'm not trying to have a hot take or anything like that. This is just about what I see on the field. Yeah, I would still take Tom Brady over Deshaun Watson. Experience is one thing, but it's not everything. In this case, I would take the experience Brady over Watson. And the supporting cast matters. I know that if each guy was on a neutral field with neutral talent, that Tom Brady's going to maximize that. I think Watson can get there one day, and that's part of my excitement. But I think Tom Brady, the Brady Bunch, is always going to overachieve. And that's something you have to love out of a leader. Call me crazy. My attempt is not to just throw darts at a board here. These are well thought out. Again, I'm just giving you kind of the one thing that kind of topped my, the priority list here. And I have Baker Mayfield at number 3 in the AFC. Yes, slightly above one of the GOATs, Tom Brady. I love Baker Mayfield throwing the ball down the field. He has a good O-line. He has a good enough back to where now he can run play action. He has OBJ, Jarvis Landry. They're loaded. And no, that doesn't always equate to winning football games. But it helps. It sends you in the right direction, which they're going, as, Mayfield and the Browns. And, man, just the downfield accuracy is, and just his moxie. Not that Brady doesn't have it, but I'm splitting hairs again, just telling you this, splitting hairs. Downfield accuracy, so underrated. And that's what Mayfield has. That may be his biggest strength, and that's very dangerous. Pat Mahomes, number 2 in the AFC. Just won the MVP, and it was for a reason. Andy Reid can't step on the field. Donovan McNabb had an illustrious career. Maybe not Hall of Fame, but a very, very good career. But Andy Reid couldn't play for him or get him over the hump. Mahomes, inaugural season as a starter, he went off. Fantastic. I do expect some bumps in the roads. I do. That's just, it comes with being a quarterback. Ask Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins. It happens. It really does. And I'm not going to dock you for a roller coaster ride. That's going to happen. You're going to get on one, whether you like it or not. It's the position. It's the sport. It's the game. But Mahomes, sensational. He just has this vision, this knack for feeling things, and he's one of the prototypical quarterbacks that you would wish to have. He really is. So his numbers, he may not hit 50 without Tyreek Hill. Numbers may dip. There's a little bit more film on him and Mayfield and Watson, etc. I get that. That's included in this. I want to see them go through some of the pits. I want to see them have to grind and pull out a 16-13 win like Russell Wilson has done, like Andrew Luck has done, like Tom Brady has done, even in the Super Bowl that we just saw months ago. I want that. I want to see them build that metal, like that grit, beyond playing a glamour position. Andrew Luck I have at number 1. Best in the game. One of the best in the game. I'll leave it at that. Maybe not number 1, but number 1 in the AFC in my book. He's back. And he's going to throw downfield more. T.Y. Hilton, more involved. You saw that the second half of last season. He's a second year removed from his shoulder injury. He's a heady player. He's still going to scramble for a first down or a couple extra yards or whatever. And he's looking smarter every year. And he's just got it. Andrew Luck, Pat Mahomes, Carson Wentz, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. And I'm going to throw another guy in there, Matt Ryan. I think those may be the top 6 quarterbacks in football. And perhaps Baker Mayfield. and perhaps Baker Mayfield. Top 7 quarterbacks we'll see as we narrow down this list as we head over to the NFC. At the bottom, I have Haskins and Murray. I have Murray ahead of Haskins, higher pick, air raid offense, more catered to him and his skill set. Haskins, we don't know. We just don't know. Is he starting? Is he not? Is he going to be Jay Gruden's guy? The answer is going to be yes, Haskins is the starter for the Washington Redskins. We just don't know when. So I got Murray ahead of him. He was the higher pick. None of them have played a down. What we know about Kyler Murray is that he can throw the ball. He played baseball. What we also know is that he can run. What we don't know is if he can play 16 NFL games, take a hit, or make the smart play, throw the ball out of bounds, slide. We don't know those intangibles, those things. I don't know if he's a leader. Flat out being honest, I don't know if Kyler Murray is a leader. But we're going to find out. I'm stepping back. Haskins, Murray, Lamar Jackson, guys that I have low on this list. I'm not low on them forever. Just right now and what I'm able to see and kind of project for the next year or two. Eli Manning, I have ahead of them both. Eli isn't the worst starter in football. He just might not be the most appealing. Not really a deep ball guy anymore. Kind of quick offense, and that's how Tom Brady's staying alive. That's how Drew Brees is staying alive in this game. Eli Manning, not really impressive, but not the absolute worst. Not the absolute worst. And he's with Pat Shurmur, quarterback-friendly head coach. And the Giants, they may not be better talent-wise on paper, losing OBJ. But when you have a guy that's always wanting the ball and speaks about it, it does kind of put your quarterback in a tough situation, and that's where I'm willing to admit that I need to give Eli Manning a break, is in that aspect. And probably just that aspect alone. Moving on. Jameis Winston. He's got one more crack at this thing. At least in Tampa Bay. And now he's got Bruce Arians. And all this season comes down to is, does Bruce Arians want to continue working with Jameis Winston? I think Winston likes to throw between, inside the hashes. I think he's a little scared to throw necessarily right down the middle and to the sidelines and deep. That's why we saw him kind of split time with Fitzpatrick. So Winston, they want him to be the guy there. Bruce Arians, he's going to get along with him. But Winston's going to have to earn that job on the field. Ahead of Winston is someone that we haven't seen a lot out of. But it's a guy that I'd rather take a chance on. It's a guy that I see more potential in. And he's also in a great position as far as his head coach goes. I'm one of the biggest Kyle Shanahan fans there is. And that's who Jimmy Garoppolo gets to work with. They have some young guys like Debo Sanders, Marquise Goodwin's a veteran, and Dante Pettis, another young guy. George Kittle, breakout tight end. Tevin Coleman, he can catch out of the backfield. Jerick McKinnon, that's what he did in Minnesota, catch out of the backfield, run a little bit, and we'll see how the 49ers offense comes together. A solid to good offensive line. I think Garoppolo reminds people of Tony Romo from the short amount of games that we've seen him play, which is like 4, possibly a handful. But that's the guy I'd rather take a chance on over Winston. Next guy we've actually seen play football. And we've seen him make a couple big throws in the playoffs, despite not winning a playoff game last season. Mitch Trubisky. Tough runner, similar to Josh Allen. A little bit different, though. Trubisky looks like a willing thrower as well. I think he's more limited. I think he's closer to Dak Prescott. And I think Josh Allen can and will surpass both of those guys. But Trubisky, He led a playoff team. He took advantage. He had a good defense. He had a good offense. They ran a lot of gadget plays, and they let him run a lot. And you know what? Cool. Good for Trubisky. And I just don't have him high up on this list because I think the rest of these guys I'm about to name are better. I think Garoppolo will be better, but right now, without seeing Garoppolo, it's hard to put him ahead of too many quarterbacks. Ahead of Trubisky, I have Dak Prescott. Playoffs 2 out of 3 years. That's one more appearance, granted, and one more season for Prescott over Trubisky. If I had to pick between the two to make throw down the field, I've seen Dak do it with at least Amari Cooper, the second half of last year. And I like that more. And maybe it's because Amari Cooper's better than any of the Bears wide receivers or tight ends for that matter. That totally comes into play. Everything comes into play. Sometimes it's going to be about your cast. Sometimes it's going to be individually. Sometimes it's going to be about your coach or the intangibles or leadership or your ceiling. And you know what? Between Prescott and Trubisky, none of them really strike fear into me as a defense, as an opponent. I just seen a little bit more of Prescott. And if it's too similar between two players, and if I see a ceiling is too similar as well, I'm going to go with the vet that I see play a little bit more ball of. I've seen him play more ball. Ahead of him, I have Jared Goff. He's kind of like a robot. And I mean that kind of in a positive manner. I don't mean to diss him. Jared Goff, he gets the play call. Sometimes he gets told where to go. 1-2 read, and then he makes that strike. He's pretty good on post routes. Post and corners, he's pretty good at. I think if the Bears and Rams can get away from the gadgety plays just a little bit, then we may see an improvement out of Trubisky and Goff. But specifically with Goff and his relationship with Sean McVay, there needs to be that leash needs to be loosened a little bit. If not a lot of it in the next 2 or 3 years, a little bit at least for 2019, to where I don't just see Jared Goff killing a play. I see Jared Goff making the right read or the hot route and actually, taking charge as a quarterback. I get that Sean McVay is one of the better offensive minds as the head coach, innovative, a good teacher and all that. I think McVay and Goff have to improve their relationship, have to improve Jared Goff being a better quarterback. Right now, I think Goff is like a computer. I think, you type it in, the calculator, and he's going to do the math. That's the type of quarterback I see him right now. Ahead of Goff, I have Cam Newton. We've seen some great football out of Cam. And we've seen an MVP year with a Super Bowl appearance. Goff, just made the Super Bowl. A field goal isn't going to cut it, though. Not that Newton has been sexy throughout his career. I have him lower on this list probably than most of you. That's just more of a guess. But from the people I speak to on a daily basis, weekly basis, a lot of people have Cam Newton in their top 10. I don't. I actually have him in the middle of the pack. And I think it's more because of him, not because of me. I think he plays too much hero ball to his detriment. He may be the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. I think if Cam trusted his receivers more and stopped only trying to zero in on Greg Olsen, who wasn't there for half of the last season, I believe it's Christian McCaffrey's team now, at least offensively. And I do see the improvements from Cam Newton. His passing completion percentage went up with Norv Turner. And if he can keep it up in the 60s, mid-60s, man, that's all you need out of Cam. He doesn't have to be a 72% quarterback, 70% quarterback. With his running ability, you get into that red zone, man, all you need is Cam to complete 65% of his passes, and he's going to be good for you, and you're going to win more games than not. I just don't trust Cam to be consistent. That's really what it comes down to. Ahead of Cam, I have Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins. I have Stafford ahead of him because I think he runs his offense. I think he changes the plays. I think he's a better leader. Cam's the kind of guy that galvanizes people when things are great. I see Matthew Stafford going through the struggle and still being a leader, pulling grass out of his helmet and still getting up and trying to teach people on the sidelines, not really sulking by himself or with the towel over his head like I've seen some other quarterbacks like the one we just named in Cam Newton. Kirk Cousins I have ahead of Matthew Stafford. I think Stafford may be a better leader, and yes, generally you want the better leader ahead, and we're kind of splitting hairs here, but I don't think Kirk Cousins gets the credit he deserves. Minnesota hasn't had offensive success for a handful of years now. Yeah, they've been a playoff team, but that's predominantly because of their defense. I think Kirk Cousins has been good from Washington to Minnesota. He's been a top 5 pass attempt quarterback in football because he's had to be. And he stepped up to those challenges, and he was chucking the ball. He's getting his guys involved. Thielen went on a huge run, half a year of 100-yard games. Diggs, I believe, had like a handful himself in his own right. And you know what? Cousins is going to get help finally from the ground game. This is the year they think Dalvin Cook's going to be their guy, going to be better, and they'll be able to run the ball even more, which will allow Cousins to actually do something he hasn't had much of, play action. I do know the flaws. I do see the stats and what people talk about as far as being in the clutch. And some of it's true. But if you have something true and something that can be changed, if you have like an A or B, I'm going to take C more times than not 100% of the time, but I'm going to take the C, that it's a combination of both, that it's not just A or B. And that's how I view Kirk Cousins. Top 5 in the NFC, this is the order I have, 1 through 5. Aaron Rodgers at the top, followed by Matt Ryan 2, Carson Wentz 3, Drew Brees 4, Russell Wilson 5. I have Wilson at 5. Over all those other quarterbacks, Cousins, Stafford, Newton, Goff, Prescott, etc. Because he's a freaking winner. Because I can rely on him in the fourth quarter. I can. My problem with Russell Wilson is I can't rely on him in the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter, and that matters too. And he doesn't throw the ball nearly as close as the rest of these quarterbacks above him. I have Drew Brees here. Pinpoint precision. The reason I have him dipped down to 4, just in the NFC alone. Kind of out of elite category. Thanksgiving time, our arm and shoulder start to wear down. I'm not trying to knock a guy that's been great, one of the best 3-4 quarterbacks of his generation. I love Drew Brees just as much as you guys, or most of you if you don't. Drew Brees is awesome. Thing is, he does wear down. It does affect the team. It does change their game. So, it does those things, and he can't offset that like some of the other guys that can run the ball a little bit. Granted, I tip my cap to Drew Brees. 5 QB sneaks, basically. I believe 4 were QB sneaks, and one was like a naked bootleg or something like that. He had 5 rushing touchdowns last season. Most people don't know that unless you listen to this podcast, the last episode. But yeah, man, Drew Brees in the red zone, 5 TDs rushing. So he's awesome. I acknowledge his leadership and his intangibles and the fact that he may be the best QB sneaker in NFL history. And if we can even track that, I don't know. But eye test wise, I throw him up at number 1. I just see, kind of winding down a little bit. And you see his playoff games. And, I know the Saints probably score points if pass interference is called against the Rams in the playoffs. But you know what? At that same token, if I'm going to grade the individual quarterback like I am here with Drew Brees, they went to overtime. They got the ball. He threw a pick, and they lost and got sent home. So, fair, unjust, I get it. But I'm just grading the individual. And Breeze had a golden opportunity. Carson Wentz at number 3. I've seen him be an MVP type of player. I believe that's really who he is moving forward. Wentz, full autonomy at the line of scrimmage, changes plays, calls the shots. He has great rapport with all of his teammates. He just gets it, and he has it. Wentz is a stud. That's why Daniel Jeremiah, Louis Riddick, guys on NFL Network and ESPN, that's why they pick Carson Wentz to be their MVP. There's a reason Las Vegas has Wentz second, with the second best odds to win MVP behind the guy that just won it in Pat Mahomes. Mahomes did in 2018 what Wentz almost did in 2017. He was just cut 3 games short. 13 fantastic games, couldn't finish the last 3. Mahomes finished. He got the award. Wentz should have got it because he still finished with more touchdowns in 3 less games than the guy that won it in Tom Brady. Number 2 ahead of him, just for now. This isn't forever because I believe Wentz will be 1 or 2 in the league. 1, 2, and 3 with Pat Mahomes, Andrew Luck, Carson Wentz. I think those 3 are the future. But I got the veteran Matt Ryan up here. Julio Jones we all know about. Calvin Ridley came onto the scene, over 800 yards. Devontae Freeman was missing. They got a new offensive coordinator, someone they're quite familiar with. They moved on from Steve Sarkisian, and they brought back Dirk Cutter, the former OC. Again, the OC. Matt Ryan is pretty damn good. I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that people appreciate more as he's aging. The more Matt Ryan ages, I think the more appreciation we're going to see. Especially when guys like Drew Brees and Big Ben retire and Tom Brady retire. And Phillip Rivers, perhaps. I think Matt Ryan, very good downfield, willing to throw a screen, and I say willing because, to be honest, I don't think quarterbacks really want to throw screens. I don't think that's what they want to do as a quarterback. Yeah, it's part of the game plan. They'll run it, whatever, yada, yada. Matt Ryan, man, he can throw. He's one of the best at throwing the deep ball. I think Wentz is up there with that. Rodgers, Mahomes, a healthy Luck, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. Those are the deep ball guys I want. Other guys have big arms, but it's not always going to connect. Russell Wilson's pretty damn good deep too. He just doesn't throw as much. Again, my only knock is if Russell Wilson's really that good, take off the reins. If your whole team's not good and this is how Seattle wants to go with let's protect our young defense, let's run the ball, milk the clock, move the chains, rely on Russ in the red zone with his arm, but with his legs, between the 20s like that. I mean, I see the game plan, the formula for their success. I see that. But I just, Anyways, number 1 in the NFC, no surprise here. Aaron Rodgers, new offense. Another year with several young receivers, like 4 of them. MVS and Geronimo Allison. Another year with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham could have more of an impact this year as well. We'll see how this offense opens things up and if Rodgers builds that rapport with Graham. And then Devontae Adams, one of the top 5 to 7 wide receivers in the game, depending on preference. Rodgers he can make every throw, and he does, and he's got that leadership. Some people question it. That's fine. People lead differently. Luck takes the blame for everything. Rodgers is going to tell you how it is. Carson Wentz is going to take the blame in front of you, and then behind the scenes, he's going to pull a guy's helmet and be like, yo, man, do this. Drew Brees is fiery, but he will always be classy. Same with Tom Brady. Fiery, but classy. Aaron Rodgers, different type of persona, but it doesn't mean he's a bad leader. All right, so you have all those numbers, and I'm just going to quickly run down the list 1 through 32 for you. now that we're merging the AFC and the NFC. So instead of going 1 through 32, I'm going to go reverse, 32 to 1. And you can use everything I've said, replay this to figure out why the hell I even put this order how I did. So 32, Dwayne Haskins. 31, Kyler Murray. 30, Lamar Jackson. 29, Ryan Fitzpatrick. 28, Marcus Mariota. 27, Joe Flacco. 26, Eli Manning. So you can think that those 7 quarterbacks through. That's 26 through 32 right there. Continue with the list here. 25, Sam Darnold. 24, Jameis Winston. 23, Andy Dalton. 22, Jimmy Garoppolo. 21, Mitch Trubisky. 20, Josh Allen. 19, Dak Prescott. 18, Jared Goff. 17, Derek Carr. 16, Cam Newton. That's what I have in the bottom half at the quarterback position. As for the top half, 15, Nick Foles. 14, Matthew Stafford. 13, Kirk Cousins. 12, Russell Wilson. 11, Ben Roethlisberger. 10, Phillip Rivers. 9, Deshaun Watson. 8, Drew Brees. 7, Tom Brady. 6, Baker Mayfield. And now my top 5 quarterbacks in all of football. This includes my projections and what I see these guys doing. Number 5, Pat Mahomes. Number 4, Carson Wentz. Number 3, Matt Ryan. Number 2, Andrew Luck. And number 1, Aaron Rodgers. All right, so I'll let you digest that, comment on that, AWOL_West on Twitter, AWOL Sports on Facebook, or even on the podcast on iTunes. All 3, I'll check them out. You put in the time to write a comment, I'll put in the time to read it and respond. You know how it goes. So, just to give you the top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League one last time before we call it a day. Aaron Rodgers at 1, 2, Andrew Luck, 3, Matt Ryan, 4, Carson Wentz, 5, Pat Mahomes, 6, Baker Mayfield, 7, Tom Brady, 8, Drew Brees, 9, Deshaun Watson, 10, Phillip Rivers. That is my top 10 quarterbacks in the National Football League for 2019. With that said, let's get out of here. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weeks. I'm out.